Peter Reynolds. I own the Money Bookstore. This is my bookstore. We didn't have a bookstore. I noticed 15 years ago, and I said, what? We don't have a bookstore? What am I going to do about it? I think I'll open one. I'm so lucky today, on February 20th, 2018, to introduce my very dear and super creative friend and educator and all-around amazing human being, Diana Suskind, who is well, she's many things. She's a Renaissance woman, and but one of her things, right, the things she's famous for, because we're all kind of like famous for something. Like you might be famous for dancing, and you might be famous for your Pokemon card collection. Everyone's sort of famous for something, right? She's kind of famous for stones, right? She loves stones, but it's not just that she loves stones, right? What you can do with stones, and she taught me that you can make amazing artwork and stories out of a stone, but it requires a special word. It's one of my favorite words. It starts with the letter I. What do you need to come up with artwork and stories? Does anyone know? It starts with the letter I, and it sounds like what? Right, imagination. Thank you, Julia. So if everyone has an imagination, you are going to get to use it today to do something pretty incredible. So without further ado, and by the way, this is the launch of Diana's super awesome book called Stonework Play, and it's her kind of the whole story of how it came to be and how she traveled the world, and there are pictures from around the world of Diana inspiring kids and kids inspiring her and grown-ups to make art. In fact, some of my artwork is in here too. I'm not going to show you what I did yet, right? So because I want you to come up with your own ideas. So I am going to pass the sacred stone over to Diana. Diana is going to lead us and inspire us to make art and to make stories and to have a most incredible, marvelous, creative day. So Diana, here we go. This is for you. Namaste.
I wish I was a little stone. I wish I was a little stone. Sitting on a hill, doing nothing all day long, just to sit still. I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't sleep. I wouldn't even wash. I just sit and sit 1,000 years. And rest myself, for gosh. Okay, you can sit down now. Thank you. How many of you are passionate about something, that you love something so much you try to do it all the time? You try to do it sometimes. What do you like to do? Good. What do you like to do? Anything else? You like to read? I know we're in a bookstore, but what else do you like to do?
Write books.
Did you brainstorm that? Okay, besides reading, is there any hobby that you like or anything that you love to do that nobody's around? Dance, okay. Well, mine was stones. When I was a little girl, I lived I still do, in the summer, at a Tisco Lake in Syracuse, New York. And I love playing with stones. I love gathering stones. I love looking at stones. I loved when I found a stone that was like this, and inside was the remains of a butterfly. And that's why I have a butterfly out, and there's another story I'll tell you. And I love, big, chunky, brown stones. And guess what they look like to me? They look like chocolate with nuts in them. Have you ever seen them in the water? I love taking stones out of the water, putting it in my left hand and put it in my right hand, and let the sun look at them, and they sparkle. I love stones.
We could make a lake, and we could use the big ones as, mostly big ones as boats. Okay. Medium ones, lily pads, small ones, frogs.
All right, do it. Set it up.
Will you help?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Hello, I'm Helen Obermeyer Simmons, and I'm here with the very famous Peter H. Reynolds. We just finished up a workshop over at his store, the Blue Bunny. And Peter, tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you, Helen. Yeah, I'm an author, illustrator, and a lot of people know me from my book, The Dot,
Yes.
Which is about being creative and really even more so about being brave and making that first mark and then kind of see where it takes you. So today we were celebrating Diana's fabulous Stonework book, and it's a movement for getting kids to express themselves, to be brave, but also to connect with nature, which I really love, because in this age of technology, there's so many screens, and kids are being drawn away from nature, and nature is such inspiration for creating art, but also for being fully human.
So we're here in the center of Dedham, surrounded by things that you have your hand in. What are some of those things?
Well, I have a bookstore. I noticed 15 years ago we did not have a bookstore, and I opened up a bookstore at the Blue Bunny. The building was, 2 years ago, we heard that it might be torn down. So I bought the building. So this 1924 building has now been preserved, and I've renovated that, and there's a new restaurant going in. And I'm across the street, of course, here in my studio called The Sanctuary. Not too many people get to come in here, Helen, so very special people. But this is my thinking space, my creating space, and this is where I do my children's books,
Right.
and picture books, because they're for all ages.
And so, what was the first book that you started with?
Well, let's see. Technically, it would be The North Star.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that story was really a story about a young boy sort of struggling, trying to find his way through this swamp, and he discovers this map that's been around. It's been there all along. He just didn't take time to notice it, and of course, it's the stars, and he uses the stars to navigate out of this swamp. And I use that as a metaphor for students in school,
Yeah.
to really think about their own journey and have control over it, because I think a lot of people, they're waiting for the next assignment. This is the next book you're going to read, and kids end up graduating and they don't know who they are, they don't know where they're going, and I mean a lot of adults experience that too.
Right.
And so I wanted to create a book that would help inspire people to take control of that and say, do you know what? I have a clue. I've been hanging out with me for a long time. I kind of know I know what brings me joy.
Yeah.
And use those little clues, like stars in the sky, to help navigate on a great journey. So that kind of launched it, and
Yes.
then one thing led to another, and here I am.
And The Dot, would you say that's your signature book?
I would say it's probably the book that people know me for the
Right.
best, and the book is now in over 25 languages, including, this is the Braille edition, which is kind of cool. The Dot in dots. Give that a feel. Isn't that cool?
Ooh.
And there's now International Dot Day, so
Yes.
on September 15th-ish is when kids and teachers around the planet celebrate creativity. They read the dot, they make dots, they think about how they're going to make their mark. They think about older kids focus on service learning, how
Right.
how you're going to make your community a better place. And we had 10 million participants last year in 170 countries. So
It's a movement.
It's a movement. It's lovely. It's lovely to to be able to help inspire creativity around the world. Of course, stones are kind of dots, right? They're nature's dot, and she was using dots to
Yes.
get kids started to make their mark. And what I love about it is very low pressure,
Yes.
right? I think it's different than handing a kid a pencil,
Mm-hmm.
handing them a rock. It's something. In fact, today I saw a little baby,
Yes.
right, picking up a rock, and of course he's putting it in his mouth, which is what kids do.
Yeah.
But it's very experiential.
Yeah.
You know what to do with it. I have a rock, I'm going to eat it, right? And then a little bit older, they were
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I have a rock now. I can, place one on top of the other.
Right.
I can, and then what Diana has done
Yes.
magically is to say, she knows the power of kids' imagination, and she knows it takes a millisecond for a kid to turn those two rocks into a lily pad and a frog.
Yes.
And that lily pad and the frog, there are other characters in this little pond, and it becomes a world, and it becomes a story. And then she invites them with a pencil and a paper to say, hey, these rocks are going to get scattered back, on the ground. Let's make a record of this, and let's render this, right? Let's draw this out, and the kids will draw what they've created.
Right.
And it's kind of a way of taking a photograph, right?
Yep.
But it's using their art, and they're drawing something they know because they created this thing, right? They have ownership in this object that they've created. And of course, their mind's already been spinning about what these things are. This little world, like this little girl I was talking to was creating this little world with the pond, with the frogs, and there's a bull. Oh, this one's the bullfrog, and this one's the baby. And they know that world, that story. So then they can not only draw, but they can tell their stories. And we heard some marvelous stories being told. And I love the grandfather who, he rolled up his sleeves and started doing it himself. And he just wrote a lovely story about this magical snake made of rocks. So, and that's one of our missions at the bookstore. We always knew that it was going to be more than a bookstore. In fact, our tagline is it's the little shop with a big mission, and our mission is not only to inspire creativity but community. And a lot of people who are very isolated, they're in their homes with their screens, and they're not talking to each other, they're not connecting. Right. And we said, let's create a space that was a community space where people can come together. We added a coffee shop. Yep. So we have a little cafe now, so adults are welcome to curl up with a coffee and their notepad. We encourage people to come, come in, grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, start sketching, draw, write. We have an old typewriter there if you're inspired to type. And it's a place to connect with human beings. So that really ultimately is our mission, is to help human beings connect the dots with each other, and amazing things happen.